Hello and welcome back to our occupational health course. It's great to have you here. In our last session, we spent some time laying the groundwork, building a solid understanding of the fundamental principles of occupational health and what a healthy workplace truly means. We talked about identifying hazards, assessing risks, and the basic steps of control. Today, we're taking a significant step forward in shifting our focus from the what and why to the how, specifically, how laws and regulations shape and enforce a safe and healthy workplace. This is where the rubber meets the road, where theory becomes practice. We're going to dive into a crucial and very practical topic, the legal framework that every professional in this field needs to know. To do that, we'll be breaking down some of the most significant changes to the legal landscape with the Occupational Safety and Health Amendment, Act 2022. This is more than just a legal update. It's a game changer that has a direct impact on the responsibilities of employers and the protections for employees. By the end of this session, you'll have a clear grasp of what this new act means for you and your future career. So, let's get started. Alright, so let's talk about the big change. The Occupational Safety and Health Amendment Act of 2022 was officially passed and gazetted in 2022. But its full implementation became effective on June 1, 2024. This isn't just an amendment, it's a complete paradigm shift in how we approach workplace safety and health in Malaysia. This act is a game changer because it does something significant. It integrates two previous major pieces of legislation that were, for a long time, the backbone of our legal framework. It consolidates the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1994, which you'll often hear referred to as OSHA, with the Factories and Machinery Act of 1967, which it has now officially repealed. The effect is a single, unified legal instrument that provides a comprehensive framework for safety and health across virtually all industries. The goal here is multifaceted. First and foremost, it aims to strengthen employee protections. This means providing workers with clearer rights and a safer working environment. But it doesn't stop there. Just as importantly, it seeks to increase employer responsibilities and the associated penalties for non-compliance. The previous legal landscape, while effective, sometimes had gaps and lower penalties that didn't fully deter unsafe practices. This new act addresses that head-on. The increased fines and expanded liability are a clear signal that the government is serious about holding companies and individuals accountable. This consolidation of laws and the increased focus on both employee protection and employer accountability are designed to create a more robust, modern, and effective system for preventing accidents and ensuring the well-being of all workers. It moves us from a reactive cleanup approach to a proactive prevention mindset. It's a fundamental change, and understanding it is key to your role as a safety and health professional. Moving on to what this act actually changes on the ground, let's look at two key areas: its widened scope and new protections for employees. First, the scope is now much broader. The act applies to almost all workplaces in Malaysia, including the public service and statutory authorities. The only exceptions are domestic servants, the armed forces, and ships under the Merchant Shipping Ordinance. The act also, for the first time, explicitly covers remote workers, which is a big step forward in modernizing our legislation, though it may present some practical challenges to enforcement. Second, and this is a major win for workers, there are new employee protections. The most significant is the right to remove themselves from imminent danger, as detailed in Section 26A. This means if a worker reasonably believes there is a serious risk of death or injury, they can refuse to perform the task or leave the area without fear of retaliation or discrimination from their employer. This provision empowers employees to take control of their own safety when faced with a critical, life-threatening risk. Now, with greater protection for employees comes increased responsibility for employers and principals. Let's go through some of the key additional duties outlined in the new act. First, under Section 15(2)(f), employers must establish clear emergency procedures. This isn't just about a fire escape plan anymore, it means having comprehensive protocols for all conceivable workplace emergencies. Next, Section 18A extends the employer's responsibility to contractors and subcontractors. This means a principal or main employer is now responsible for the safety of all workers on their premises, regardless of their employment status. It's about ensuring a safe environment for everyone on site. Third, risk assessment is now mandatory under Section 18B. Employers must formally evaluate workplace hazards and put in place measures to mitigate them. This shifts the focus from reactive to proactive safety management. Fourth, Section 29 requires employers to appoint a safety officer or a health coordinator. This creates a dedicated role within the organization to oversee safety compliance and champion a safe work culture. And finally, under Section 31A, employers must provide regular OSH training courses for all employees. This promotes a preventive safety culture and ensures everyone is equipped with the knowledge to maintain a safe and healthy workplace. You might be wondering, what happens if these new duties are not met? Well, the Act also significantly increases the penalties for non-compliance. The maximum fines for employers and principals have increased dramatically from Rm 50,000 to Rm 500,000. Similarly, designers, manufacturers, and suppliers now face fines of up to Rm 200,000, up from Rm 20,000. This legislation also extends liability. Company directors, managers, and other officers can now be held personally liable for an offense unless they can prove they had no knowledge of or didn't consent to the offense and that they took all reasonable precautions with due diligence. This is a powerful provision designed to increase accountability at the highest levels. In conclusion, the Occupational Safety and Health Amendment, Act 2022 is a timely and critical piece of legislation that modernizes Malaysia's legal framework for occupational health and safety. It reinforces the responsibilities of all stakeholders, strengthens employee protection, and ensures greater accountability through enhanced penalties. This act is about building a safer, healthier future for all workers. Now that we've covered the major changes, let's quickly touch on some of the other important amendments introduced by the Act. It's a comprehensive piece of legislation that goes beyond just the big headlines. It revises provisions on the notification, installation, and inspection of plant and machinery. This is a critical area for many industries, and the new law ensures that the processes for getting equipment certified and inspected are clear and up-to-date, improving the safety of the equipment used in workplaces. The Act also redefines the role of licensed persons who perform inspections and certifications. These are the experts whose job it is to make sure that plants and machinery are safe to operate. The new law clarifies their responsibilities and ensures that the standards they work under are consistent and high. In addition, 2 new schedules have been added to the Act, which are essential for its effective implementation. The 4th schedule is significant because it provides a legal definition of what constitutes a serious bodily injury. This provides clarity for reporting and investigation purposes, ensuring a consistent standard across all industries. The 5th schedule is equally important as it specifies which work activities require a competent person to oversee them. This is about matching the right level of expertise to high-risk activities, ensuring that those in charge have the necessary skills and qualifications. All of these changes, from the major ones we discussed earlier to these more detailed amendments, work together to create a more comprehensive and robust regulatory framework. They fill in the gaps, provide greater clarity, and ultimately, strengthen the overall system for protecting workers. This slide really hammers home the message that this is a serious and impactful law. As we've already discussed, the fines are dramatically increased. The maximum penalty for a general contravention has been raised from Rm 50,000 to Rm 500,000. The Act also introduces new certificate requirements, specifically a certificate of fitness that must be issued by a licensed person for certain plants and installations before they can be operated. And, as we covered, employees now have the right to remove themselves from a work situation if they believe there is imminent danger, without fear of discrimination. This is a powerful new right for workers. To recap some of the key points on the expanded scope and responsibility, the Act now applies to all workplaces in Malaysia, including the public sector. This is a massive expansion of coverage. It also places new duties on principals, think of them as main contractors, who must now ensure the safety of their contractors, subcontractors, and their employees. And a major point we can't overstate, a mandatory risk assessment is now required by law for all employers and principals to identify and control hazards. The new law also modernizes the framework for oversight. It formally introduces the concept of a licensed person who is authorized to conduct inspections and issue certificates of fitness for plants. Provisions for occupational health services have been updated to emphasize the protection of those who provide these services. And the role of the Occupational Safety and Health Council is expanded, giving it a broader function in coordinating national OSH activities. Let's explore how the Occupational Safety and Health Act has evolved from the 1994 version to the 2022 amendment. Under the original OSHA 1994, coverage was fairly narrow. It mainly applied to specific industries like manufacturing, mining, and agriculture. Employers and self-employed individuals were only responsible for the safety of their direct employees, and there was no legal duty to conduct formal risk assessments. But things changed significantly with the Amendment Act 2022. The coverage has been expanded to include all workplaces across Malaysia, except for a few exemptions like the armed forces, domestic servants, and merchant ships. This is a big step forward because it means that no matter where work is carried out, employers now have a duty to ensure safety. On top of that, the new law makes principals legally responsible for the safety of contractors and subcontractors working under them. Employers and self-employed persons must also conduct risk assessments as a legal requirement, not just a good practice. And here's another key update: workplaces with 5 or more employees must now appoint a safety and health coordinator to actively monitor and manage workplace risks. This reflects a stronger move towards building a proactive safety culture across all industries. Moving on to employee rights, penalties, and liability, here's where the Amendment Act really strengthens protection. Under the old OSHA 1994, employees didn't have a clear legal right to refuse unsafe work. But now, under the Amendment Act 2022, workers are given the statutory right to remove themselves from situations of imminent danger without fear of discrimination or punishment. This is a powerful step in empowering employees to prioritize their own safety. Next, let's talk about penalties. The old Act had relatively lower penalties, with fines capped at Rm50,000. The new law is much tougher. Employers, self-employed persons, and principals can now face fines up to Rm500,000 and even imprisonment for serious breaches. For designers, manufacturers, and suppliers, fines can go up to Rm200,000 for failing to ensure safe use of plant or substances at work. Finally, the Amendment Act also extends liability beyond the company itself. Directors, managers, and officers of a company can be held personally liable for offenses, unless they can prove they took all reasonable precautions and acted with due diligence. This ensures that safety is not just a policy on paper, but a responsibility that reaches every level of leadership. Together, these changes mark a big shift: stronger employee rights, heavier penalties, and shared accountability to create safer and healthier workplaces in Malaysia. Let's zoom out and look at the broader regulatory structure in Malaysia. At the top, we have the Act, which provides the overall legal framework. Beneath that, we have regulations, followed by orders, and then finally, codes of practices and guidelines. This is a descending sequence, where the Act provides the overarching legal authority, and the other instruments provide the detailed rules and practical guidance for compliance. So, if you're wondering who the Police of Occupational Safety and Health are, the answer is the Department of Occupational Safety and Health, or DOSH. This is the government body responsible for enforcing all of these laws, regulations, and orders. They are the ones who conduct inspections, investigate incidents, and ensure that companies are in compliance with the Act. Finally, to wrap up this section, let's clarify some key terms that we'll encounter frequently in OSH law. An occupier is a person who has management or control of a place of work. A place of work includes any premises where people work, or where plant or substances are stored, including vehicles, vessels, and aircraft. A plant is a very broad term that includes any machinery, equipment, tools, and their components. And premises is also a very wide-ranging term, encompassing land, buildings, and even temporary structures like tents. Understanding these core definitions is critical for interpreting the Act correctly. Now, why do we have so many regulations? The awareness of safety and health has grown, and as a result, specific bodies have developed these regulations to protect people, especially in the workplace. These regulations cover a wide range of safety and health issues, and they are designed to provide a comprehensive framework for safe working environments. The regulations themselves are a direct result of our collective commitment to a safer and healthier society. Here's a snapshot of some of the key OSH regulations and orders you'll encounter. This list isn't exhaustive, but it highlights the variety and scope of the legal framework that underpins the main Act. Think of the Act as the Constitution for safety and health, and these regulations and orders as the detailed laws that make it work on a day-to-day basis. Each of these serves a very specific purpose in creating a safe and healthy workplace. First, we have the General Policy Statements regulations. This is foundational. It requires most employers to establish a written safety and health policy. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a legal requirement that shows management's commitment to protecting their employees. Next, the regulations for the formation of safety and health committees and the role of the safety and health officer are crucial. These regulations give life to the concepts we discussed earlier. They specify exactly who needs to be on a committee, what their powers are, and what the qualifications and duties of a safety and health officer are. These are the formal rules that create a structure for collaboration and professional oversight within a company. We also have regulations on the control of major industrial accidents. These are specifically for industries that handle large quantities of hazardous materials, such as chemical plants. These regulations require detailed risk assessments, emergency response plans, and strict controls to prevent catastrophic events. And of course, we can't forget chemical safety. There are regulations dedicated to the classification, labeling, and safe handling of hazardous chemicals in the workplace. This is a critical area for many industries, ensuring that workers are protected from exposure to dangerous substances. Finally, regulations on the notification of accidents and diseases are essential for monitoring. They mandate how and when employers must report injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrences to DOSH. This data is vital for tracking trends, identifying high-risk sectors, and ultimately, informing future policy and enforcement. Each of these regulations is a vital piece of the puzzle, working together to provide a detailed, enforceable, and effective legal framework that protects all workers. They show that safety isn't just a broad concept, it's a series of specific, measurable actions. Let's talk about a very important part of occupational safety and health law, the OSH, Employer Safety and Health General Policy Statements, Exception, Regulations, 1995. Now, under Section 16 of the OSH Act, every employer and every self-employed person is required to establish a safety and health policy. Sounds big, right? But here's where it gets interesting, there's an exception if employee less than 5 people. Let's look at a couple of these more closely. The OSH, Employer Safety and Health General Policy Statements, Exception, Regulations of 1995 state that the requirement for employers to establish a safety policy applies to every employer and self-employed person, except for those with fewer than 5 employees. The OSH, Safety and Health Officer, Regulations of 1997 outlines the qualifications for registration, the notification process, the duties of the SHO, and the requirement to submit reports to the employer. These regulations provide the detailed instructions for implementing the broader Act. Now, let's talk more about the Safety and Health Committee. Why is it so essential? Management may put in their best effort, but employees are often in the best position to observe hazards. An important source of help would be overlooked if an employee safety and health committee wasn't included in the organization. The committee is a vital bridge between management and the workforce, allowing for a two-way flow of information. The law itself mandates the creation of this committee. Section 31 states that every employer must establish a safety and health committee if they employ 40 or more people, or if the Director General directs them to do so. The objectives of the committee are clear. First, to fulfill the requirements of OSHA. Second, to promote consultation and cooperation between management and workers to improve safety and health at work. Third, it provides a two-way communication channel for disseminating information on safety issues. And finally, it enhances the interest and motivation of both management and workers in safety and health matters. It's about building a collective safety culture. The employer is responsible for complying with the different parts of the Safety and Health Committee regulations. This includes the composition of the committee, its functions, the frequency and format of its meetings, and the provision of training and information to its members. So, who is on this committee? The chairman is the employer or their authorized manager. The secretary can be the appointed safety and health officer, or someone else if there is no SHO. The committee includes representatives from management, such as a manager or supervisor, and worker representatives from different sections or processes within the company. Let's clarify the appointment process. The chairman is the employer or their authorized manager. The secretary is either the safety and health officer, or if there is none, someone appointed by the chairman or by a ballot among members. This process ensures that the committee is properly structured and led. The number of representatives on the committee depends on the size of the company. For companies with less than 100 employees, there must be a minimum of 2 management representatives and 2 worker representatives. For companies with more than 100 employees, this minimum increases to 4 for both management and workers. This proportional representation ensures that the committee reflects the size and complexity of the organization. The worker representatives are nominated from among the employees. If there are more nominees than vacancies, a ballot is held. If no one volunteers, the employer must appoint them. These representatives should come from various sections of the workplace to ensure diverse perspectives are heard. A crucial point: workers who are absent from their regular duties due to their SHC responsibilities should not be penalized. What are the main functions of this committee? They assist in developing safety rules and safe work systems. They review the effectiveness of safety and health programs. They are also empowered to investigate any safety matter brought to the attention of the employer. And importantly, they review and recommend revisions to safety and health policies. The committee is an active, not passive, part of the safety system. So, what goes on in a typical committee meeting? The agenda is comprehensive and covers a lot of ground. You'll discuss department hazard reports, review the status of the OSHA 300 log, go over safety inspection reports, and analyze accident investigation reports. You'll also evaluate the design and performance of existing safety programs, discuss training needs, and talk about any new rules or regulations. It's important to remember that these meetings are strictly for safety and health matters in the workplace. This focus ensures that the committee remains effective and doesn't get sidetracked by other issues. The minutes of these meetings are legally binding and must be handled with care. A copy must be provided to every member and the employer within 2 weeks of the meeting. The minutes must be kept at the place of work for a minimum of 7 years. And if required, the employer must provide a copy to DOSH. When an accident happens, the committee plays a critical role. The chairman or secretary must immediately convene a meeting to investigate the incident. In this meeting, the committee discusses the cause of the accident and makes recommendations to the employer to prevent a similar incident from happening again. This is about learning from mistakes and ensuring they are not repeated. The process is clearly defined. The safety and health officer, or the chairman if there is no SHO, must provide their recommendations to the employer or authorized manager. The employer then must discuss this report with the SHO or chairman as soon as possible. The SHO or chairman is required to record the final decision of the employer. This is a crucial step for accountability and record keeping. After the investigation, the employer or authorized manager must direct any person to take the necessary action to address the issue. The employer is legally required to keep a copy of this accident report for a minimum of 7 years. This is a long-term commitment to safety documentation. In conclusion, Part 2 of this topic has provided a comprehensive overview of the crucial legal and regulatory framework for occupational health and safety in Malaysia. We've seen how the Occupational Safety and Health Amendment Act 2022 modernizes the landscape, repealing older acts and establishing a new, more robust system. This legislation is a significant step forward, as it expands the scope of coverage to virtually all workplaces and introduces new, mandatory duties for employers and principals, such as risk assessment and the appointment of safety and health personnel. It also empowers employees with the right to remove themselves from imminent danger, reinforcing a culture of shared responsibility. The dramatic increase in penalties and the extension of personal liability to company directors and managers underscore the seriousness of this new framework. We've also explored the vital role of the Safety and Health Committee and the structured approach to meetings and accident investigations. Ultimately, this act reinforces the core principles of occupational health: proactive prevention, shared responsibility, and clear accountability. It aims to build a safer, healthier future for all workers by transforming safety from a reactive measure into an integrated part of a company's culture.